I'm author R.J. Machado De Quevedo, and I write supernatural mystery thrillers. So in these type of books, you have a diverse range of entertainment going on. You have the demonic and the angelic warring over the destiny of a young college-age girl. You have the struggle between lust and love. You have friendship and enemies. Those trying to pull you down, those trying to build you up and support you. Oh, as well as just lots of sarcasm and humor. So in the books that I write, the Deceiver Saga, there's always something for someone. As long as you're over the age of 12, you can enjoy these books. And I say that for the simple fact that due to some of the content, I would never want a young child getting a hold of these books. I don't want to be responsible for any nightmares. When I first had the idea to write these books, the title for the first book, The Deceiver, was firm. It came with the ideas, The Deceiver. And I didn't have to struggle for it at all. It naturally just evolved immediately. The Deceiver is not always someone else who's doing the deceiving. Sometimes we can believe our own lies, the lies spoken about us. We can be our own worst enemy. And the titles that I chose for each of the books so far has an ambiguous meaning. It means more than one thing. Not only is the deceiver the enemy, Satan, the evil in this world that's out to get us, to deceive us, to destroy us and annihilate our hope and our faith and our joy, but we are our own deceiver because we choose to believe those lies, and we also choose to believe the lies spoken about us by others. Sometimes they can be family, friends, relatives, even people we don't know, like bullies at school or a teacher who just doesn't like you when you're a child. Those are the lies we choose to believe about ourselves, and that encase us in that sense of loss of purpose, loss of self. The inspiration for my books came from originally a very vivid dream I had one night. It was December 21st, 2009. I had had this dream. Basically, the first about 4 chapters came from the scene that I had been dreaming. Lost and abandoned on a cold street, no signs of life, no lights but flickering overhead street lights, coldness, feeling evil, seeping through the fog, trying to grab me from alleys, but feeling compelled to press forward. There's something I had to find, something I had to obtain. And when I had that dream, and then literally finding what it was, that whole few chapters, first 4 or 5 chapters, most of that was the dream. Of course, it's been fictionalized more than the dream itself was. As I was writing, I had to add more detail and a couple things like her running into that mysterious man on the street. That was not in the dream, but most of the rest was. And I'd have to actually sit down like line by line and tell you what was in the dream and what wasn't. But the idea started from there. That dream itself had really touched my heart when I woke up. It stuck with me for weeks. Because what I found in the dream was that book, and it was a book of music, something that in my real life, my music I had kind of put aside out of some hurts that had taken place in a ministry group that I had been involved in. And every time I had picked up my flute to play after that, it felt dirty, it felt tainted. Even when I would try to worship on my flute, I felt like a piece of me was gone. And a couple years went by where I felt like this. I could barely pick up my flute and play. And given I'm a musician first at heart, and music is where I have always found myself. And to suddenly feel like that piece was gone was hurtful and heartbreaking to me. When I had the dream that I had, I knew God gave me that dream because I literally went and had to seek out and find that book of music again. And when I found it, I just started weeping over it. And when I woke up right after I found the book and was holding it to me, crying. And I just felt this absolute love pouring down on me. And I knew that was God saying, I will heal your heart. I will give you back your music. Trust me. And every time I thought about the dream for weeks, I felt that same engulfing of love and that same passion for my music. And it literally just came back. It was just wonderful, absolutely wonderful, and a delight to play again and to worship again on my instrument. And you just feel like you're stepping into the presence of God when you're playing. And the funny thing started happening. The more I thought about the dream itself and would play my flute, the more all these other ideas started coming. All of a sudden, the dream itself changed. It was no longer me in the dream. It was another character. And she had a name. She arrived with a name. And so did her friend. And then these other characters. And then a setting. And then boom, 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 boom. All of a sudden, storyline, conspiracies, connections, twists, just all these things. And themes, passionate themes of that. It was almost like the things that break the heart of God for us. What breaks his heart but also infuriates him came coming. At the same time this creativity popped off in my mind, so came all these thoughts and all these things that need to be said, need to be spoken, need to be pushed into the face of people to deal with and acknowledge, and stop hiding in the sand and just hiding away in a church and not doing something about it. And I felt like this is something I had to do. I knew I had to write these books. And I knew that these topics, as heavy and hard as some of them are, need to be said. And will touch certain people and touch their hearts. And also entertain. There is a lot of violence in the book. It's written to be raw and to be real. And the way I write in the first perspective. So when she's being beaten down or watching her sister get raped, or someone is trying to rape her, you're in that first person character. You're experiencing and feeling what she's experiencing and seeing, and in some cases tasting or smelling. I write from a very personal perspective, and that can be a little overwhelming for some people. Some readers has told me I've had to pause and come back and to finish reading it because it was so detailed and graphic. And my own editor with my publisher even told me, Becca, on a scale of 1 to 10, girl, 10 being the strongest for violence, sexuality, even some language, you're kind of at a 10. I mean, can we tone this down a bit? And I was like, oh, okay. And I knew I was writing real, but I even disturbed my editor. So I've had to tone back. And because I believe in being real and authentic in who we are. And I want people to feel that it, these are real things that happen in our world. And the thing is, it is. All these horrible things have actually happened. Men controlling their wives, beating them down, stripping them of their identities, children watching the violence, being victim of the violence, women being raped. I mean, the human trafficking in our world is outrageously out of hand. It shouldn't even be in hand. I mean, it shouldn't even exist, but it does because of the evil in men's hearts, because of Satan, who's out to destroy. If he can destroy half our population, which is women, he's going to, and he's been doing that from the beginning. So, yes, my books are real. They're raw, and there is graphic violence, but I try to balance that with sarcasm and some humor, fun, light moments, hopeful moments, excitement, action. All that's in there too to balance out the darker moments and what you get to witness of the spiritual warfare and the demonic interference that goes on. I describe some of the demons quite vividly for people to imagine. I know we've become inundated with films where there's demons and zombies and characters like this, and it's just saturating even our daytime televisions now. So people already have a pretty good idea of what they would see. But you still have to take the time to describe these creatures. And what I see in my mind of what they would look like and how they would behave, and try to find a way to make that seem new and different. I'm trying to reach both Christian and non-Christian alike. Um, I am a Christian and I am an author. So you can say I'm a Christian author. But I'm also a human being who lives in this world. So I'm also a worldly author. My books are written to entertain, but to also give people, hopefully, a new perspective of God, to see Him as their friend, someone they can talk to like a friend when they pray. It's not about the fancy words you say. It's not about how many words you say, how long-winded and high-mighty your prayers are. It's about approaching God, being real with Him, because He already knows everything about you anyway. He knows your flaws, your weaknesses, your hopes, your dreams, your ambitions, what despairs you, your hurts. He knows it all. So if we can just talk to God like a friend, we're going to feel a lot more hope and peace in our life. That's a message that I try to relay in my books about my main character. And for those who don't believe in God, I've had atheists read the books and enjoy them and want to pick up the second and the third. And that's cool with me. It's no problem. And I never want to use the word of God, the Bible, or even references I make to it here and there in the books to make anybody feel attacked or beat down or judged. That's not the purpose. That's not my heart. And that's not what I wanted my books to relay. I wanted it just to relay pieces of truth that people can take what they want of it. And I'll let God do the rest. He's bigger than I am. He's going to do what He wants to do with that. He's going to put whatever message He wants in the heart of the reader and bring back to their memory anything that might bring them hope and encouragement in a time of difficulty. That's His job, not mine. My job as the author is just to write a good, entertaining story, a compelling story that draws you in, that makes you want to pick up the next and the next and the next and the next. And if you just happen to get some little seeds of hope and truth and find some comfort and peace here and there as the saga goes along, well, good. That's perfect. Then my job, I feel, has been done. With the covers, my publisher is really great in that they want me to tell them what I want on the covers, what vision I see in my mind, in my heart. And I relay that back to them. I fill out a detailed questionnaire and I tell them what I want to see. They take that, their artists take that, they have a team of artists and designers. They take that, they extrapolate in their own artistic brain and interpretation what my words mean and try to come up with something that visually explains it and demonstrates that. We go back and forth a little bit, the artist and I, and to refine it until we get it just right. And on the first book, The Deceiver, I really wanted the strong symbols going on. We have the lion and the serpent, hope, destruction, as well as faith and lack of faith, Satan and the Lord. Those images I wanted cast on the cover. And then I also wanted Melanie, my main character, because she's the heart and soul of the book, and they are battling over her. Now, on the second book, Broken Seed, that cover, I thought it might be controversial a little bit to certain individuals out there, but it needed to do two things. It needed to be attractive and yet show the deception behind it, which is literal. We have a very attractive man on the cover, and behind it you can see the serpent rising up even bigger than him, almost ready just to overpower and take over. And that is literally kind of a reflection of the struggle going on in that book. You have temptation and what appears to be enticing, and just like any false perception and deception, it's going to be attractive in the beginning and it's going to seem appealing. But once you get that taste, there's nothing but death, destruction, and lies behind it. And that's what I wanted to reflect in that cover. And on Sanctuary of Fire, the newest book in the Deceiver Saga, I needed to show the people that despite everything that's gone on in the first two books, my main character, as are we as human beings, need to continue to stand up in faith and fight. So I had her holding her sword of the Spirit. She is literally slashing and chopping down her enemies, demonic as well as the physical human, in that particular scene. Not the whole book is all chop people up to bits, bloody gore. There's bits and pieces of it, which is, again, why I say ages 12 and up, that's okay to read the book, but I wouldn't recommend a bedtime story for a 6-year-old. I wanted that cover to show and demonstrate that spiritual warfare that was going on, and also how it crossed over into the physical realm. And I wanted little pieces of the demonic behind her so you could see what she's warring against. And that sanctuary of fire, the namesake of the book, to be encasing her, engulfing her, protecting her, keeping them at bay as well, because that's what God does for us. He surrounds us, he protects us, he intervenes on our behalf when we feel we're outmatched by life, by our enemies, by people out to get us. Well, I knew before I even started writing these books, as soon as I had the idea and I felt the themes arising in me that needed to be addressed throughout the saga, I knew there would be certain individuals out there, Christian or non-Christian, who would find some of the themes, even possibly the covers, offensive. And we can't always please everybody all the time. Something my father used to tell me when I was younger. You can please some of the people some of the time, and all the people some of the time, but you can never please all the people all the time. And I refuse to live my life that way. I always have. I will continue to do what I feel I'm called to do. And I'm not here to please man, per se. I'm here to please God. And I had to write what I felt in my heart needed to be said. And the covers, though they might turn certain people off, and I have had feedback as such. You made me want to leave the room as soon as I saw that poster on the wall. I've heard these things said to my face. I don't take offense. You can't please everybody. My hope and prayer would be that those who should read these books will. Those who aren't ready to read them won't read them yet. But that eventually the Holy Spirit would draw them if there is something in there for them. Now, some people will literally judge a book by its cover. It's a catchphrase. It's been coined. Everybody says that. But it's true. People have literally judged my books by their cover. When they see that half-naked torso of a man with the serpent behind him, some men are offensive and insecure about that. But I have had so many men walk up and say, oh my God, that cover is awesome. They just loved it. They loved the snake behind it. They loved the kind of sly, smiley little guy, on the front. They thought it was just catchy. They loved it. Men have loved that cover. Of course, the women love the cover too, but that's for a different reason. But I put on the cover what I knew needed to be there, not just to attract the reader, but or to market, because your covers are one of your strongest marketing tools as an author, from a first impression standpoint. But it needed to reflect the story within, and in some measure. But offense or not, there will always be people who take offense. You can tell somebody the sky's the most beautiful shade of blue today. It's so clear outside. And someone will be offended by that. Someone will say, well, we've had too much rain, so it better be sunny, and they get an attitude. Other people might be like, well, it's too hot today. I broke a sweat. How dare I? Whatever. Someone will always be offended at something. So.
I was surrounded by my enemies, demons and giants alike, but I was also surrounded by my friends and allies, God's holy angels. In my haste to obey, my mind suddenly became clear. Fear ceased to exist. I simply was. I would do what I had to do, or I would die trying. In a sudden whoosh, fire surrounded me, a holy sanctuary of fire. My long red hair blew back.
Melanie, okay. She's a feisty little redhead. And she's a college-age student. She's about 23 years old. She has gone through a living nightmare, a living hell since childhood. I mean, it says in the book, her first word was no. No, excuse me. Her first word was stop, stop. When her father was beating her mother, that was her first word. And her oldest sister, Vivian, told her, that was your first word, Melanie. She's lost her mother. She's lost her sister. They died in violent ways. And then she has a friend that has stuck by her since she was 15. Someone who kind of tucked her in under her wing and loved her and took care of her and had endless compassion for her and understanding, and which is the true definition of a good friend. So Melanie has had a horrible childhood, a horrible life, and along the way has almost lost her faith. Her faith that there's a reason for all this. There's a how could there be a God and I go through this? Those kind of questions she asks. She literally shakes her fist at God and yells at him. She is angry and hurt by what she's gone through, and the Lord has to come bring her comfort in the form of an angel and gives her some of those answers. And as the saga goes on, you get more answers and more pieces, and you find out more about her father and these group of, rough felons who are out to get her. There's more of their story that comes out too. You begin to understand them a little bit more as the saga goes on and why they're doing what they're doing. But eventually you're going to find out more of the spiritual battle behind it. There's a whole agenda from the enemy, from Satan, out to get her and destroy her because of the call that she has on her life. And I think that's actually reflects our reality in the sense that people go through horrible things in their life and are constantly battle after battle, and you're being attacked. I mean, sometimes it's human to human. We have the power with our own will to hurt each other, but sometimes it's inspired by a spiritual force, and it's because the enemy wants to destroy our faith, wants to destroy our hope, wants to destroy us, so we could never even conceive of the idea of stepping out in faith and pursuing our calling and our destinies. And we all have to resist that easy way out of giving in to that and keep fighting to be who we are called to be, being who we are, and not letting anybody define us, even the enemy. Some of the social issues and themes that I felt I needed to draw attention to and discuss a little bit in the books here and there are topics such as bullying, sexual abuse, the domination of men over women, which unfortunately has lasted since the beginning of man. It's not how it was designed to be in the beginning. They were supposed to be partners. Other topics include some of the daily things that people go through: lying, cheating, stealing. But there are stronger issues at work here as well, such as the lust issue, the spiritual warfare, not giving into the idea that there's no heaven or hell, releasing yourself of accountability, and saying, well, I can do whatever feels right to me. That in itself is a lie. That in itself is a deception. Because if you take away heaven and hell and you take away good and evil, what's left? A superficial, shallow existence. We weren't designed to just be here to gratify ourselves. We're here to worship God and to love one another and to show that compassion and that care for one another. And an example of that in the books has to do with racism too. I have Melanie starting to get in a relationship with a man who's not white. My character is white, but the man that she's starting to fall in love with is Italian and Hispanic. A man she starts to develop a little crush on is African American. She's resisting that because he's older than her and he's supposed to be teaching her how to fire weapons, but, her mind is going there. I wanted to address these topics in our society that are hurting us and causing division and causing pain where there shouldn't be. We strip off our very top layer of epidermis we all look like bloody tissue that we're raw underneath. This is simply a layer, and it's irrelevant to me. It should be irrelevant to everybody, and it hurts me and upsets me when I see that, and it's something I had to write about. I was bullied as a kid when I lived in Virginia. We lived in a county where there were more African Americans than there were white people. I was picked on for being a little white girl. I was 6 and 7 years old, and I was getting picked on for that. But there was this sweet girl who rode my bus, and I wish I could remember her name. She'd be like, Miss Rebecca, come sit by me. Miss Rebecca, come here, come here. You leave her alone. And she would yell at the other boys who were picking on me, and she would have me come sit next to her, and she was so sweet to me, and she would just talk to me, and I just looked at her and thought she was like my angel, because she protected me, and I was like 6 years old, and our friends down the street were African American. We played double dutch with them all day long, all weekend, and it was great. And then I was getting picked on by other ones at school. I was like, what did I do? I didn't understand. Because I wasn't, my father and mother didn't raise me to be that way. They raised me to be loving towards everybody. Well, you sneaky. Um, book 4 is going to be called Blood Enemies. There are several new characters coming, and several old villains coming, and of course, our beloved core of characters are going to be there too. But yeah, there are going to be some new ones, definitely. But you're just going to have to wait and read it to get all the details. The Deceiver Saga is going to have about 7 or 8 books, possibly more. Currently, The Deceiver, Book 1, is publicly released. Broken Seed is also out. And Sanctuary of Fire just came out on December 16th. Blood Enemies, I'm just at the beginning of writing, but it'll probably come out next year. I would say probably the tail end of next year, just based upon some projects that I currently have going as well with my publisher. I am going to be writing some companion journals to go with each book, which basically means a lot of the research that I've done on the books is going to be in an outline format that allows book clubs or Bible study groups even to use as a reference to dig more into the things of God, and also into just the practical research applications of it. There's so much good stuff in there and a lot of research involved. Some things that people may not necessarily want to know more about, but I find exciting because I'm into them. So they'll be listed in there too. So there'll be some good discussion points and also just entertainment research aspects of those companion journals. They'll probably be no more than 50 pages apiece. And I have yet to begin writing them, but my publisher's already agreed to do it and is excited about it, so we'll be moving forward with that as well. The audiobooks are also currently in production. The first audiobook should be complete very soon with the reading draft, after which they'll send it to me, and I'll get to listen to it and give any last feedback before they start scrubbing it and cleaning it up, and then they're going to move on to the production of book 2 and 3. So that should be available hopefully in like 4 months or so. I'm just really excited and I can't wait. It's going to be trippy listening to it on an audiobook. You can get my books. Currently, they're local in Sacramento at Dimples off of Arden. They're going to be in Facing the Book again soon. I have some book signings coming up as well where people can come out and meet me, buy the book from me directly. Go on my website under the appearances page and you can see all my scheduled book signings coming up. But they're also on Amazon.com, Walmart.com, BarnesandNoble.com, FamilyChristian.com, a whole bunch of other websites I didn't even know that they were on. I found myself on. I was tripping out. I was like, what? Like, I had no idea. Some websites on the UK, some in South Africa. I had no idea. Or Southern Africa, let me correct. I had no idea. But here they are. Or there they are, I should say. I'm like, I don't even know when I'm going to see those royalties. Anyway, So there they are, but they're in all formats. Soft cover, the hardback covers, ebook. You can get them in iPad, Kindle, Nook, even PDF. And you can purchase them through my website. The only versions you can't purchase through my website are anything above Kindle 2. You have to go through Amazon.com for. But yeah, all those websites you can get them at. Oh, also, if you live in Idaho, they are at Hastings Bookstore. Any bookstore that you walk into, you can give them the name of my book. And you can tell them it's published through Tate Publishing, and they can actually order it for you too. And usually the bookstores will order it and not charge you for shipping. The publisher will ship it directly to them. So you can walk into any bookstore and say, I want you to order this book for me. Please check out my website at rjmachadodequevedo.tateauthor.com. My Twitter following is at the Deceiver Saga, and I am also on Facebook under RJ Machado De Quevedo. Okay, go for it. If I had one superpower, my superpower would be the gift of flight. Yep.